Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we are talking about how the Houston Rockets will destroy the Golden State Warriors in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And I am joined by Albie Shore, who is the host of the Tortillas and Take podcast, usually talking about Texas Tech sports, but he is a diehard Rockets fan. So, Albie, let's start off here. Why are you so confident that you think that the Rockets will beat the Warriors in, at least this is what you were tweeting, 5 games?
So this is what I'll say. All right. Some people can joke for one, but to be honest. So this is what I'll say. Right. So for this series, for Rockets fans, right, we're a little scared. Like the fan base is a little scared. The main reason why the fan base is a little scared is not even has to do with this season. To be honest, it has to do with the 2016 season, the 2015 season, the 2018 season, the 2019 season. Like we have played this Golden State Warriors team way too much in the past decade. And Stephen Curry, Stephen Curry has hurt us more than any player I can think of. It reminds me a lot of like if you are a Pacers fan playing the Bulls in the 90s, right? Like that's what it reminds me. And if you ask Pacers fans, you ask Pistons fans, they hate Michael Jordan more than anybody because of what the Bulls have done to that team and to that organization. And that's what the Warriors have done to the Rockets. So when we see the Warriors as the other team, we're not even thinking about 2025. We're thinking about 2019 and 2018 and 2015. Like we're thinking of the years past when James Harden was there and this, that, and the other. Fred VanVleet was just asked the other day as far as does he understand the fans, worriedness about playing the Warriors and because of past experiences. And he was like, no, we're not that team. And he's right. This is not that team. That team had James Harden and Trevor Ariza and Clint Capella and all those guys. He's right that we're not that team. However, that is still Steph Curry. That is still Steve Kerr. That is still Draymond Green. And those three people have completely brought us down as a fan base. So there's no, Rockets fans that are worried and scared, we have every right to be because of what they've done in the past. Now, flip side, when you think about this season, like when we take this season alone, these two teams and these two teams alone, this is why I'm confident that the Rockets will at least win the series, whether it's in 5, 6, 7, that the Rockets will win the series. And the reason is because even if you think the Warriors have the best player in the series, even if you think the Warriors have the second best player in the series, players 2 through 10 or 3 through 10 all play for Houston. Jalen Green, Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, right. Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore. Like all of them are better than Podziemski or whoever else you want to say is the third best player on that Warriors
Draymond.
All of them. All right, like Draymond is a good example of this is Draymond has a really good shot at winning Defensive Player of the Year this year. And the only reason why I believe he's going to win it over Amen Thompson is because not enough people in the national media realize who Amen Thompson is this year. Amen Thompson this year, there's almost no metric that Draymond is better a defender than Amen Thompson is this year. But Amen Thompson is second year. And so to give the award to a guy in his second year that you just heard about 2 months ago, it's probably not going to happen. Right? But like defensively, I do not believe, and I'm a big Draymond Green fan defensively, as far as maybe not his antics, maybe not his, all this other stuff. When it comes to defense and what he does on the defense side of the ball, I think he's great. He's not Amen Thompson. He's not as athletic as Amen Thompson. He's not as he doesn't have the lateral quickness as Amen Thompson, and Amen is just as physical as Draymond Green can be. Ask Steph Curry last time he played the Rockets, right? And he was held to 3 points. It was because he was put in the Texas Department of Correctional Facility called Amen Thompson, right? That's the main reason I look at this Rockets team and say that we are so deep. And I know that depth doesn't matter as much in the playoffs, but when your players 1 through 8 is so talented and so good in that aspect, I think the Rockets are able to do that and overcome any barrage that Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler can do. I mean, in the last game they played in the play-in, those guys combined for 75 points. They're likely going to have to do that every single game of this series to have a shot at beating this team.
Well, I think to that point, the Warriors, and you kind of saw it a lot in that Clippers game to end the season, where if they kind of lock in on Curry and Butler and they're asking like, hey, Gary Payton beat us, Podziemski beat us, Draymond Green, take your open threes if you can have it, Quentin Post, go nuts. That's kind of like the fear with the Warriors here. And I think probably like the keys for Houston in this series is I think the way for them to win is defense and to slow down the game and make it more of a half court game, grind it out physically, and then just kind of hope and cross your fingers just then crunch time that you guys can like really pull it out. Because I think that's probably the biggest factor why I would probably lean the Warriors in this series is just because I think executing in the last 2 minutes of a game, I just think that the Warriors with Curry, Butler, Draymond, they've been there before. They're hardened playoff veterans. I know that's maybe a cliche, but I think just executing down the stretch, like I trust them more than I trust Van Vliet and Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün and Jabari Smith and whoever else, and Dylan Brooks or whoever else you want to have in that closing five for the Rockets. So that's probably where I would lean. But I think probably a huge factor in this series that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about is how this game is going to be, or how this series will be officiated, because you're going to be having we got some characters in this series. We got Draymond Green, like we mentioned. Dylan Brooks isn't afraid to grab someone's balls. Steven Adams isn't afraid to get hit in the balls. There's just a lot of kind of wild card characters in the series, and the thing that the Warriors, and this is a credit to them, this isn't a knock. The thing that they have done really good over the years is they know how to work the officials. Draymond Green's one of the best people in all basketball of work. I mean, he gets a lot of texts and stuff and flagrants and stuff like that, but he does know how to work the officials more than like a lot of other players do in the NBA. Steve Kerr, I believe he already said something like a week or so ago about how Steph is getting gets calls in the playoffs, and he's said all of that stuff previously. So I think that's a huge factor too. Is like how are the referees going to call this series? They going to let them play, or is this going to be a series where like 3 Houston Rockets get fouled out in like multiple games or something like that?
And real quick to that comment, I do think that. So he actually made the comment before the play-in game against the Grizzlies. And I'm of the belief that he made that comment with the assumption he'd be playing the Rockets next. Because the last time the Rockets played Steph Curry and the Warriors, there was a lot of arguments from the Warriors side base as far as the physicality that Steph Curry was enduring and the lack of calls. And I listen, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Othman was roughing him up, right? But in the playoffs, the referees typically allow that to happen. And I find it hilarious that the same Warriors team that was roughing up James Harden in the 2010s are now the same Warriors team that's like, oh man, come on, guys. We don't want to do all this now. So yeah, I'm of the belief that he did that knowing that he'd be playing the Rockets and knowing that our defense is, the Ime Udoka's style of defense is physical. Dylan Brooks is physical. Amen Thompson is physical. Jabari Smith is physical. Right? Like, these guys are going to get up in your grill and they're going to be a little bit more physical with you. Hell, even Alperen Şengün, when Alpi really gets to it, he's not scared of anything. And so I will say that's a really good piece there. But that style of defense does you typically work in the playoffs. And I know Steve Kerr's already trying to work that angle of it, right? However, typically things are usually let go. Right? Things are usually allowed to happen a little bit more. Now, they're not going to necessarily let us, punch Steph Curry in the face every time he comes on the floor. But Steph Curry, the scenario where he's just running around, not getting touched, it's just not going to happen. Right? And Udoka won't let it happen. Udoka is liable to go out there and touch him up himself. You know what I mean? So that style of defense.
Say that.
Yeah. Like, that style of defense usually works in the playoffs. And defense travels. So when we talk about home court advantage and all that other stuff, and we already have the home court advantage in this one, but defense travels. And so the fact that Houston has actually done a really good job of going on the road and winning games, especially recently. I mean, we talk about hot teams. These are 2 very hot teams right now. These are actually 2 of the hottest teams in all of NBA in the past 2 months. But a big reason for that is our defensive rank this year. So the defensively, I do think that we do have a really good shot at this. And then also, I think we're one of the only teams in the entire NBA, right? Whenever you play the Warriors, everyone's going to say, well, who's going to guard Steph? Who's going to guard Jimmy Butler? And we're one of the only teams in the NBA that have an answer to that. It's not even like a scheme answer. It's who's going to guard Steph? Amen Thompson. Who's going to guard Jimmy Butler? Dylan Brooks. Like, we have guys that we can just say, one play, that guy, I'm not saying he's going to stop him, and I don't think Ahmed's going to hold Steph to 3 points again. But if he's holding Steph, if both of them are held under 30, if both of them are held under 30 in each game this year, Rockets are winning this. Maybe Rockets are winning in 5 if we hold them under 30 every game, right? If both of those combine for less than 60 every game, I don't see a chance of them.
Will that strategy work if Alperen Şengün plays the whole series with 2 bruised testicles?
You better figure it out because Draymond don't like foreigners. that's we've somebody figured it out last year or whatever it was, that it's not that Draymond is aggressive or doesn't like people. He doesn't like foreign bigs. Period. Something about foreign bigs.
Gobert, Sabonis, who's the other one? Nurkic,
Steven Adams. He don't like and actually in the last game they played, Draymond elbowed Şengün in the chin. He's already done it. He don't like foreign bigs. I don't know what it is.
That's so funny. So a question that I have for you too is like I was talking about just how, because this happened this is like the last year of the KD year when KD was hurt. The Warriors played the Blazers in a playoff series, and heading into, I believe, every fourth quarter, the Blazers had a double-digit lead, and they still got swept by Golden State just because Golden State was better with like their big 3 of Clay, Steph, Draymond, and just executing and finishing down the stretch. Like, does that worry you at all? And what is kind of going to be the offensive strategy of the Rockets in like 2 minutes of the game when they need someone to just create offense and create shots for themselves and others?
So for me, the fourth quarter doesn't worry me. It's the third quarter. So the Warriors have found, and this is, I give a lot of credit to Steve Kerr about finding this, which is that the fourth quarter, everybody locks down. Fourth quarter, sure, you're going to have the guys that step up in prime time ready to go. But the third quarter is actually the time when it's winning time. And so if we go back to
come on,
for
man.
the Warriors,
third
anyway.
quarter,
for the Warriors anyway.
Okay,
for the Warriors,
okay.
Third quarter.
I understand what you're saying. Their third quarter numbers are pretty insane.
It's incredible. They average over 30 points a game in the third quarter alone. They use that third quarter to really blitz the other team, go on these long runs. You know, I know that I talk about the the 2018 playoffs a lot, just because that playoff series broke my soul. But the 2018 Western Conference Finals, both Game 6 and Game 7, the Rockets were up double digits in the first half. The third quarter is when in both games everything blew apart. Right. And so that's the quarter that actually worries me more than anything, as far as making sure that we're not doing the same thing, getting blitzed in that third quarter before going into the fourth. And so I do think I think we've done a really good job coming out after halftime and being ready. I think that Udoka is really good at making the necessary adjustments defensively to make sure that we're ready. This is one of the best defensive teams that I can remember the Rockets having since Olajuwon. Right. Well, no, that's not true. Jeff Van Gundy was here, so let me not disrespect him. But this is one of the best defensive teams I've seen since Jeff Van Gundy was the coach. And like Jeff Van Gundy, the focus is on the defensive side of the ball. The fact that he has Jalen Green playing defense is amazing in itself. Like that alone is enough for Coach of the Year. Right, playing good defense or quality defense too, not just moving his feet. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but he's not bad, which is all we need him to be. So I do think that that's going to be a big piece of it, is handling that third quarter, making sure to calm it down, making sure they don't go on these big runs, right? Because if you do end up having, let's say you're in the halftime with a 12-point lead and it's a 2-point lead going into the fourth, well, then it's almost like you've already lost, right? And keeping it still there. But I would say, though, on the flip side of things, one thing that the Rockets are really good at is keeping everything steady. So we don't have the highs and lows that the Warriors typically have, right? If I'm looking at the splits right here between quarter, we literally average 27 points a quarter every single quarter, right? We keep it consistent, and then defensively, same thing, right? We hold the other way around. We hold the other team's defense to 27 points a quarter every single quarter. We keep it very, very simple and keep it very calm. And then the flip side of that, we're also, our highest scoring quarter is also that third quarter, which is also the quarter the Warriors give up the most points. So I do think that's an advantage there as well.
So Rockets in 5?
Rockets in 7. Okay. To be honest with you, Rockets in 7. I'll say this. I think that usually to win a series, you need three things.
Uh-huh.
You need to have a very good defense against a good team. You need to have a very good defense. You need to be able to play in half-court offense, and you need a closer. There's no doubt in my mind we have two of the three. We have the advantage of two of the three. We're the better defensive team, right? We slow the game down. Like the whole reason I love Alperen Şengün is that his style of play, playing the ball through him, is what wins championships. We've seen it. We've seen it when you have a big that you can play through. That has won championships. You may not need to be your best player, but you need to be able to play through him, through a guy like that. And so that's great. Now the piece, what we don't know is who's going to be the closer. Jalen Green has shown the ability to be the closer. The biggest question we have is that can he show that consistently to be the ability to be the closer? Fred VanVleet's shown the ability to be the closer, but let me tell you something.
Is he still shooting under 40% for the year? I know I checked in halfway through the year. Hold on, I have it.
He might be.
Yeah, he's shooting 38%.
He might be. This is what I'll tell you about Fred VanVleet, all right? He is good enough. He's good enough to win us one game. He is not good enough to win us more than that. But there'll be one game where you're like, where the hell did this come from? How is this guy able to put up 20 points all in the second half? This makes no sense. He's hitting every shot. And then you will never see that guy for the rest of the series. But one game?
Reminds you of Harden.
One game. Well, James Harden at least give us 2 games, two full complete games where you're like, oh man, he's great. And then the problem with James Harden wasn't that he wasn't a great playoff performer. The problem with James Harden is that he was I'll tell you, James Harden was actually, if you look at his numbers, was actually great in the playoffs. The problem with James Harden is he was terrible when you needed him to be great in the playoffs. That's the difference. He would play fantastic games 1 through 4. And then you have a do or die game 5 where you need your great, crazy MVP caliber player to step up and he put up 10 points. That is the problem with James Harden. It's not his overall playoff numbers were fine. It was when you needed him to be great was when he faltered.
What do you think of like the Harden experience, like post Houston? Because that was something I was talking about with my Clippers guy like a few days ago on this show. Was he's just kind of like had like it's at times it's been like very hard to root for him with him fattening himself out of like 3 different situations. He still had like the playoff struggles in like a lot of different spots, but it feels like now with him in like the Clippers, it feels like this is the most like normal basketball situation he's been in since like 2018.
I mean, you need to tell your Clippers buddy, ain't shit changed.
Well, they don't have to like rely on him as much. He's just a point guard now.
Yeah, so that's the help, right? So the problem with him is that for the Sixers is a good example of this. At the Sixers, they were always going to be okay as long as Embiid showed up when Harden didn't. But you have 2 guys that do that. You have 2 guys that falter when you need it at best. So what happened is they both crashed out at the same time. So luckily for the Clippers, right? Because Harden's going to have a game where he goes 3 for 30 for 10 points. Like that's just going to happen. But if Kawhi, who's a pretty consistent player when healthy, if Kawhi is not doing that, which I don't expect him to, that's the benefit of the Clippers, right? Zubac is always going to be pretty consistent. He's going to do what he does. He's going to get you his double-double. He's going to put up 14 and 14. Good defense in the post, right? Kawhi is going to say, hey, give me the ball on the side here and let me work and get his 25, 28. That's always going to be consistent. So whenever Harden does have his terrible game, it's to your point, it's not going to matter as much like it did in Philly and Houston.
And 2, they've been having the best scouting center in all basketball. Ben Simmons has been practicing as Nikola Jokic in practices, so
yeah,
they're going to be more than prepared.
Yeah,
it's almost like Bronny being Anthony Edwards in Lakers practices.
Well, the Nuggets, that whole Mike Malone thing makes absolutely. I was watching Shams basically talk about that they fired him because they didn't want him to give the ability of winning games in the playoffs to save his job. That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard, that you want to fire your coach because you're scared he may win too much. That's just dumb. That doesn't make any sense. The Nuggets actually were my sleeper pick to potentially go to the finals before he got fired. Right, I thought he was going to be able to turn. They were faltering on defense a little bit recently, but I was like, Mike Malone's a good coach. He'll turn it around. They'll figure it out by playoff time. And they were my dark horse to potentially go to the finals. I think they're wildly talented. They have the best player in the NBA, and they might find the way. That was my preseason pick, was Nuggets Celtics, and so I still thought that there was a good chance of that happening, and they just blew it up.
What was so weird about the firing too, it's like what you said, it's like, well, they didn't want him to have a good playoff run and then they have to keep him. But it's like we've had like coaches of the year get fired, like we've had coaches go to the finals and they get fired, like we've had like it wouldn't have been crazy if let's say they make it to the conference finals. Let's see I guess they're the 4 seed right now and they lose to
the Lakers.
Yeah. Or it's even say in the second round they take the Thunder 7 games and then that's like the closest playoff series we see all playoffs, and and the Thunder just go and they just wreck through everyone else. Like it still wouldn't have been like the Bucks fired Coach Bud like a week after what it was like his brother died or something like that.
Yeah.
Like we've seen like shameless firings before. It wouldn't have been that crazy.
Or if you're that confident that he's not going to work, let him go to the conference finals. Keep him for a year, and then he'll prove that he's not a good coach next year, and you fire him then. Like, it's not if you're so confident that he's not a good coach, let him not be a good coach.
It's go time now with the Nuggets. It's figure stuff out now. It's not sit around on your hands and wait and see if things work out. They're making moves this summer.
Yeah, no, I get that, but at the same time,
Michael Porter is not on this team next year.
Yeah, well, so I saw somebody say that. I saw somebody saying, I actually do agree with this, that you could see them maybe trading him for Kevin Durant, which that would actually make a lot of sense for that team. I could definitely see a Durant-Jokic situation working out pretty well, where Durant's not the guy, and the guy who is the guy plays a completely different position. Like, they're not stepping on each other's toes. It's not a, hey, your turn, my turn situation. But I think Durant and Jokic actually make a lot of sense, even though I'm pretty sure I know where Durant's going next, depending on how this plays out.
Well, where's that going to be?
Yeah, you know it. It's going to be, if we, hypothetically speaking, let's say the Warriors beat us in the first round. I'm pretty positive Durant's going to be a Rocket next year.
Are we sure it's not the other guy in Phoenix?
I want the other guy in Phoenix. If we lose in the first round here, I've been advocating for at least a year now that I believe. So I'll take a step back here. So a lot of people compare Alperen Şengün to Jokic. And I think a lot of reasons why they do that is because people are lazy and they look at a big that can pass the ball and say,
and comparing him to Sabonis would seem insulting a little bit.
Exactly. Sabonis doesn't have the footwork that Şengün does. Like there's, But who Şengün is, it's not Jokic, it's not Sabonis. It's Pau Gasol. Watch Pau Gasol highlights, especially in Memphis. Watch Alperen Şengün. Same player. They play the exact same. They play a very finesse, get a lot of good rebounds, great footwork, good player. When Pau Gasol was in Memphis, the best they could do was a 3 seed. I think they lost in the first round. Right? Pau Gasol was never going to be the best player on a championship team. However, the second he went to the Lakers, and he was the second best player, they won back-to-back championships. They went to the finals 3 years in a row. Pau Gasol being the Robin on a championship team is great. I think Şengün won't be the best player on a championship team. I do think he's good enough to be the second best player on a championship team. So what does that mean? That means we got to find our Kobe. I like Jalen Green. I think he's a very talented person and player. We will see how he does in his first ever playoffs and see if he can rise to the occasion. So that's why I say it depends on how this playoff goes. However, we've already seen Devin Booker be the best player on a finals team. I do not think Devin Booker is the main person. I think he takes some responsibility for how it's gone in Phoenix, but I think on the list of reasons why it's gone bad in Phoenix, he's not even top 5. Right? I think Devin Booker on this team has the ability to be not Kobe Bryant, but the Kobe that we need paired with Alperen Şengün and take us to that next level. Also, I think Amen Thompson is baby Kawhi. And so having those, if you put Booker on this team, I think that instantly makes us a title contender, a real title contender. Instantly makes us a team to be feared. And Booker's the guy that I want. But Durant's the guy that I think we'll end up getting.
Well, I was thinking about this today. I don't know why I was thinking about it. I think about it I feel like I think about this once a week, where there's just a lot of teams in the NBA right now that are going all in for everything or already have gone all in for everything. And there's just going to be a lot of disappointed teams and stars just sitting around the NBA that are like, what are we doing here? Things are stagnant. But the problem is with that, if you're just looking at what stars could be available, all of kind of like the big market teams have already like shot their wads, or teams that are in a chance to compete for a championship that have like a top 5 guy have already shot their wads. Like both LA teams have kind of done that. Golden State did that with the Butler trade. The Knicks did that with the Bridges trade. You just kind of look around the NBA. There's not too many, like, at least in the big market areas, that are like, hey, we give up a bunch of stuff for a superstar and we're ready to win right away. And Houston's kind of like the only team for that. And I wouldn't close the door on Giannis. That's all I would say too. I think Devin Booker is realistic too, especially with some of like the post game, like, or not the postseason like quotes that he had. It seemed like he was going to be like a Phoenix for lifer, but it's like he's like, hey, we were like close like a few years ago, and then now all of a sudden it's like we're not making the playoffs and we have no assets, and Bradley Beal is completely fine with having the Suns be Wizards West. But yeah, I think Giannis, if things flame out early on, and it's like, because they're not going past the conference semis if they beat,
second round at most.
Yeah, and it's like Milwaukee's already like shot their wad too. So there's really not like a press button for release valve to like kind of save things there. So it feels like Giannis, and I don't know if that's he's also like talked about times like Chicago being like a place he'd want to go. I also think Anthony Davis, I've been an Anthony Davis truther, that it would be smart for him to like ask out this summer, because just the Dallas situation's just like Dallas, another team that shot their wad. But like why would you want to stay in Dallas right now? Like Kyrie Irving's not going to be healthy all of next year. He's not going to be 100% physically himself again, probably till the start of the 26-27 season. So like if you guys flame out, you guys are definitely getting somebody. It's just kind of who knows who.
Yeah, I mean, there's another guy, Ja Morant, right? There's some thoughts that maybe the Grizzlies are willing to blow that up. Now, Ja has his own issue. I don't want Zion. Listen, let me tell you something about Zion. I think Zion is has the talent and ability in the world. He needs to go to a city that has no good food. Houston, the food is too good. Send him to Utah. Utah, he'll end up being an all-star again. But Houston, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, none of those cities, Miami, none of those cities need Zion. Right? Send him to Indianapolis. Indianapolis, I was just in Indy. There is literally one food hall with good food. Outside of that, he'll be keep him away from the garage in downtown Indianapolis, and he will be lean and mean once again. Right?
Well, he can eat whatever he wants now. He's on Ozempic.
I do think Ja would fit on our team as well, but again, I don't want him. I don't want to find out that he's hanging out in Fifth Ward, trying to be a vice lord. But I think his style is a winning basketball style. We do need a point guard, and so I think that's another one. So Ja, Devin Booker, or Giannis, I think all three of those I'd be happy with. Though I do think Giannis kind of steps on Şengün's toes a little bit, so I think it's one of those Giannis for Şengün type of situations, just like I think it'd be a Booker for Green situation. But I think those three guys are guys that I'd be happy with. But again, if you gun to my head of who I think we're getting, Udoka and Durant are tight. Udoka was his assistant coach in Brooklyn. They speak the same language. Durant works out. He works out with Jalen Green in the offseason. He works out with I think it is Tari Eason as well in the offseason. Like I think he might even work out with
those guys will be great Phoenix Suns when they trade for Durant.
that's right. Yeah, that's true. Also, I think I will say this: what makes Phoenix a great trade partner is we currently have their first round pick. So, especially if we get a top 4 pick that's not Cooper Flag, this is how I look. If we get the number 2, 3, or 4 pick, because I think there's a top 4, there's a top 1 in Cooper Flag, then there's 2 through 4, Edgecombe, Bailey, and Harper that are all kind of grouped together there. If you're Phoenix and the Rockets get the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th pick, and the Rockets say, we will give you this, we will give you Cam Whitmore, we will give you Jalen Green, but you have to give us Devin Booker. We're not taking Durant. It's kind of, I don't think it's Devin Booker's going to want out. I think it's Phoenix going to have to make that decision of how will we get out of this? And this may be the only way to get out of this.
I did not think about that. You guys had their pick. Oh my gosh. You just like broke my brain a little bit there.
Yeah, we have the pick.
And it's
We have a 20.
ninth best odds.
We have a 20% chance of getting a top 4 pick, which is pretty amazing.
Dang, that would be that is an incredible trade asset if you could get that.
Yeah.
Or even you or even if you use the other assets to go and get someone else and then keep the pick and then
yeah. I mean, no, let me say something. If we by some miracle get the number 1 pick, we ain't giving that up. Cooper, you are a rocket. Welcome.
It's amazing too, like how like 5 years ago you guys trade Harden and it looks like this isn't going to go well. You gave up like some stuff for Westbrook. You gave up like every player you had for Chris Paul, and it kind of felt like this Rocket situation just isn't going to be. It seems kind of like a dark future. But then 5 years later, 2 seed in the West, and have basically is Oklahoma City the only team that's got more assets than you guys right now. Like, in a hell of a situation to keep on going.
Well, and I got to give shout out to Rafa Stone, our general manager, who got promoted after Daryl Morey left, because everybody, including myself, wanted us to trade James Harden for players. I will say right now how wrong I was that I wanted Ben Simmons. I wanted us to trade him. At the time, I wanted us to trade him for Ben Simmons. That's who I wanted. And I'm so glad Rafa Stone is a lot smarter than I am to say, you know what, let's reset. Because my thought at the time is that, hey, we still have a decent team. You get Ben Simmons as a cornerstone. We can still go somewhere from here. But he was smart enough to know we got to do a reset and we got to suck for a little bit. And those 3 years of sucking was awful. We were terrible. We were bad. It was not fun whatsoever. Steven Silas is a good guy, bad head coach for young players. I didn't think he would be. But we had to suck for a little bit. But with those assets, with us sucking for a little bit, put us in this situation. He also made tough decisions like drafting Jalen Green over Evan Mobley. I will say this. I wanted Evan Mobley. That's who I wanted. Jalen Green. But if we draft Evan Mobley, we likely never make the deal for Alperen Sengun.
Yeah.
Right. If another questionable piece was not trading out of the Amen Thompson pick. That was the 4th pick. If you remember, that year was a 3-player draft. Mm-hmm. Right. We had the 4th pick. A lot of fans, including myself, wanted us to try as best as we could to trade out of that pick. Now Amen Thompson looks like baby Kawhi. If you look at Kawhi Leonard in his first 3 years compared to Amen Thompson in his first 2, firstly the exact same player. All right.
Well, I also think too a smart thing you guys did that kind of got ridiculed at the time was signing Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks to those deals.
Yep, exactly.
Because even too, it's like you look at like even the Detroit situation. Yeah, they got a new head coach, but like, and say what you want about some of these guys that like the veteran players that they signed, like Tobias Harris or even like Malik Beasley. But sometimes it's good just to have guys that have been in the league for a while that are happy with a role, aren't worried about their next contract. I was even going back and we talked about like LaMelo on here like a month ago, and I was going back and I was looking through like the years that Charlotte was like in the play-in with LaMelo. Like it was LaMelo and then a bunch of like veteran players all around him. And now you look at that Charlotte team and it's just a bunch of young guys that don't know what they're doing. So I think it's good to have that kind of like mix of veteran role players that have been there, done that, and a bunch of young promising players. And then obviously too, the head coach is very important. That's what you guys got right now. So
yeah. No, that's a very good call out there. To this day, a lot of Rocket fans get frustrated with Van Vliet because, like I mentioned, he'll have one great game offensively anyway,
and he's shooting 38%.
And then shooting 38% of the season. But I'll say this, and especially at the time, I think Van Vliet. The reason why Van Vliet gets so much vitriol is because of that, and then also at the time, James Harden wanted to come back, and we were the ones that didn't want to bring James Harden back. And I actually still stand behind that decision to give the money to Van Vliet instead of paying the max for Harden, because having Van Vliet on this team has allowed Green, Sengun, Thompson, Smith, maybe not Eason, to become better players. Having that vet around that team. James Harden is a do as I do, not as I say type of player, right? He's I'm gonna do this step back. I'm gonna get 30 points and 12 assists in this game. Hey, just watch me. Like, if you're Jalen Green, how the hell does that help me in what I do, right? how the hell does that? How do I learn to the best way to prepare? When we first signed Fred VanVleet, the first thing he did is that he called up Jalen Green. They took a trip out to Vegas to watch the Summer League, and they were literally training and practicing every single day. Anytime you saw Jalen
Harden
Green
would have
that
went
summer,
to Vegas with him for other reasons, but
exactly. I was just about to make the same joke. Exactly. And so that's where the benefit of VanVleet is. It's not in the numbers. Harden's a better player. There's no question about that. That Harden is going to go. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a top 5 shooting guard of all time. James Harden's incredible. The question isn't whether or not James Harden is a better player than Fred VanVleet. The question is who's better for this team. And I believe if James Harden was on the team, we would have made the playoffs. James Harden doesn't miss the playoffs. And then we would have been a 7-8 seed and losing every round with James Harden averaging 30 points. And that'd have been cool, I guess, but nobody ever gets better. Now, I'm still one of the ones that still feel those were Brooks. People don't question as much for Rockets fans. VanVleet's the one that still gets a lot of the vitriol, but I still think it was a good decision.
Hell yeah, man. The series starting this Sunday should be one of the more fun series that we have in the first round of the playoffs this year. Albie, do you want to tell us where we can find all of your work, and then we'll head out of here?
Absolutely. You can find us anywhere you get podcasts, Tortillas and Takes. On Twitter, Tortillas and Takes, and I still call it Twitter. Mama called it Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. I think we have a Blue Sky account, but I don't run it, to be honest. So it's on Tortillas and Takes as well. So yeah, follow us on all of that. And last thing I'll say is Golden State, give me a break. And well done. That's not how I like my steak. Rockets.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, James.